Alright, here we are back with our pegboard toy in Autodesk Inventor. Preliminary results from beta testing have come in, and a group of rambunctious six-year-olds have told us that this toy just isn't fun enough. So we've gone back to the research and design department, and we figured that what could be more fun than adding a third peg to our pegboard toy. I know that's quite a dramatic twist. It's unprecedented in all of pegboard toy history, but we're going to add a third peg in here. And what could be funner than a triangle? So we're going to make a triangle peg to add to our pegboard. We're going to do this. We're going to move the round peg over towards the edge a little more. We'll move the square peg to the edge, and then we'll fit a triangle peg right in the middle. First thing we got to do, though, is make a triangle peg. So go to the letter I in the upper left-hand corner. Click on New. And like we've done before, we're going to make this using a standard IPT. You can either click standard IPT twice or click it once and then the Create button. We're going to start with making a sketch. So I click Create 2D Sketch on my toolbar. Then I choose a work plane to work in. Notice again that my toolbars have changed into my sketching tools. Now I can make a triangle in one of a couple of ways. I could either click the line tool to make a triangle, or what I think is a slightly easier way, there's a tool called the polygon tool that I'm going to use to make a triangle. When I click on that, the default setting is for a 6-sided shape, and I only want mine to be 3-sided. So I change the 6 to a 3 by entering it on my keyboard, and then I move my mouse over to the screen and I click. You notice that I get a triangle. It gets larger and smaller. I can change the orientation. Right now all I want is a triangle. I don't really care where it is because I can move it around and I can change the dimensions. So I got a triangle I like. I click to lock it in my screen. Then I go to the little pop-up window for polygon and click Done. I want to make sure that this base of my triangle is horizontal. So I know I have a bunch of tools here in the middle that can quickly orient my triangle for me. One of them is called a horizontal constraint. What it lets me do is click on any shape, any line, and make it perfectly horizontal. So I'm going to click on that and then click on the base of my triangle. Looks pretty good. And then I'm going to dimension my triangle. So I click the dimension tool. Much like the circle was 1 inch in diameter and the square peg was 1 inch by 1 inch, I want the base of my triangle to also be 1 inch in size. Click on the base, click one more time so that I can add a dimension. I type a 1 on my keyboard and press Enter. In the case of the triangle I made, it gets a lot larger. And I want to just see what the angles are to make sure that when I make the hole in my pegboard, it matches perfectly with this triangle that I made. What I can also do with the dimension tool, besides just looking at a side, the length of a side, I can click 2 sides that are adjacent to each other and it tells me the size of that angle. In this case, it's 60 degrees. I'm going to click on that just to lock it in. This little pop-up window just tells me that it's locked into that size and I can't change it, so that's okay. I'm just going to accept it. Then I'm going to go to my base of my triangle and click the side on the left. Now I see that this is also 60 degrees, so I'm going to click. Tells me again that I can't change it, but I want to accept it. Then I'm going to go to my top 2 sides, and again, I don't really want to change this dimension. I just want to have a visual to see that I can remember what this triangle looks like when I make the hole in my pegboard. It has a base of 1 inch, and then all the angles are 60 degrees. That looks good to me, so I'm going to go to the upper right and finish this sketch. Just like everything else was extruded 3 inches, I'm going to go back to the extrude function, type a 3 on my keyboard, and then Enter. This triangle peg now is 3 inches long and has a 1 inch base. I'm not a big fan of the gray color, so let's go over to the default heading at the top and find a new color. I think the funnest kind of triangles would be green polished triangles, so just to double the fun, we're going to make a green polished triangle. That looks good. I'm going to go to the letter I and save this new triangle that I made. I notice that it's in the same folder with the rest of the pieces, the square peg, round peg, pegboard, and ends. I'm just going to call this a triangle peg. There we go. I'm going to save that, and it's good to go. Now we have to do some adjustments in our pegboard. We cannot do this one very well in assembly mode, so please open up a part that is just your pegboard. It's a pegboard IPT. Notice that there's no pegs or anything there. When I see my browser window, I can see that there's extrusion 1, extrusion 2, and mine is also featuring the sketch under extrusion 2. If your sketch is not showing up under extrusion 2, please click the plus sign by extrusion 2 and it should be visible. This sketch under extrusion 2 is the circle and square openings you made. We want to move those a little bit, so I can right click on sketch by extrusion 2 and find the edit sketch button. When I click that, my pegboard changes orientation so that I can see what I've done, and now I can move things around. This should be pretty simple. I'm going to click the dimension button at the top. I'm going to click the center to my circle. I'm going to click on the outside edge. I see that this is 1.567 inches, and I want to make that a smaller distance. So I'm going to type in 1.25 on my keyboard, press enter, and my circle should move over. Now I want to do the same with the square. Click the center of my square, click the side closest to the square, and I notice that they're quite a distance apart too. So I'm going to make this 1.25 as well. I type 1.25 on my keyboard, press enter, and I notice that the square moves over. That looks pretty good. I have plenty of room in the middle now to sketch a triangle. I'm going to click Finish Sketch. And I notice that even the holes associated with the circle and the square move once I've moved the sketches over. Let's make one more 2D sketch. I'm going to choose the same long side where everything else is located on my pegboard. Now I'm going to draw a triangle in the middle. I notice that I have my polygon tool here again, so let's use that. I click on polygon, make sure that it still says 3 sides. That's what I want it. Then I'm going to center it. Again, I can change the size of my triangle. I can change that it's horizontally oriented. All I need to do is really get it on there right now. So I click, and there's a triangle. I don't want any more triangles, so I click Done in the polygon window. First thing I want to do is line it up perfectly. So I go to my toolbar at the top in the middle, find that horizontal constraint button again. I click the horizontal constraint and the base of my triangle. That looks nice. If you remember from the triangle peg we made, I want the dimension of the base of this triangle to be 1 inch. Right now it's a little big, so I'm going to type in 1.0 and press enter on my keyboard. Now the last thing I want to do is make sure it's centered. Actually, it does look like it's perfectly centered, but I'm just going to make sure. I'll click the center of my triangle, the outside edge, and it is off just a tad. So I'm going to click 1.5, which will center it between the bottom and the top of my pegboard. I notice that it moves just a little bit. Perfect. I like what it looks like, so I'm going to click the green checkmark Finish Sketch button in the upper right hand corner. Okay. Now, like we've done before, I'm going to click Extrude, click that green triangle, well, the triangle, make sure it extrudes in the opposite direction. I can do that in a number of ways. When I click OK, I should be left with a pegboard that now has a circle, a triangle, and a square. As long as I save this, I'm going to go to the little Save button at the top, and I open up my pegboard, I should notice that my pegboard already has the triangle hole in it. If I move the circular peg over just a little bit, both it and the square peg should snap into shape. Now all I have to do is place the triangle peg. In my assembly window, I'm going to click Place, find my triangle peg, left click to get it on my screen, right click to say OK. Now all I have to do is constrain it into place. I think you can take it from here.